it's Maya. So I thought today I would make a live video, not my specialty, so bear with me. I have to remember which way it's facing because it's all set up for Instagram videos in which I don't have to talk, and it's portraits, so I'm all mixed up. Anyway, so these are my latest purchase. I've had Jane stamps for probably close to a year, and oh my god, I just love them. Best 10 bucks I ever spent. So I just joined Jane's website as well. She did that live video the other day where she talked about some upcoming stuff, so that sounds exciting. And just like you guys, I want to see how to use all this awesome stuff, because of course I was really excited when I finally got my hands on my mermaid markers, and needed to backtrack to videos made by other fans about removing things instead of just, you know, checking out Jane's info in the first place. Lesson learned. So, Shimmering Sky are these colors, and the Glitzy Sparkle markers are Warm Seas. So, basically, with any art supply, play, right? So, I do lunch supervision for kids at a local school, and when we talk about art and stuff, it's kind of a crazy experience because I remember all the questions I used to ask artists, and being on the other side. Practice, 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 right? Draw, draw, draw. And what's great about mixed media and why I love Jane's style and approach is you can reuse so much. I don't think I've thrown out art for a really long time. In fact, I'm trying to renovate to sell my house, which has been a horrible torture. But I can't just throw out my art. I can recycle a large portion of it, depending on what I've used, but the ability now to throw it into an art journal or a special kind of book super excites me, because then I feel like I'm contributing less to pre-existing problems concerning waste, right? So these are the tones I've got in the Warm Seas, and these ones are the brush pens, mermaid markers, and they're like half empty already, which slightly terrifies me. But the thing with playing is you go through a lot of ink, but once you get the hang of it, you will use and waste less. Not that any art is a waste, but a little goes a long way with these. You can tint the water just by dipping the tip of your brush, so if you need a nice wash in any of these colors on a lighter version, or I would recommend trying them on dry paper versus wet paper. They do all sorts of different tricks. I'm not a big lover of making swatch charts and things. I love looking at them, but I would, with the limited time I have with my art in my life, I don't want to get too charty with it. I'd rather just play. So I'm going to just, as per a request from a fellow Davin Peep artomologist, just watch how they work and see what they do. We're going to do it on dry paper because that's been something fun for me lately. We'll do just like a landscape background or something simple, because now that I'm making this I feel really pressured. And all it is lines on the paper. So the fun thing with brushes is push and lift. If you need inspiration, watch Japanese watercolor videos where they make bamboo, and just watch how they push the brush and how the hand moves. And I mean, 99.9% of the time the brushes do most of the work. It's just we're taught to oversee when we do art, right? When you watch Bob Ross or Jane, any of the awesome people out there doing what they love to do, they're usually not drawing anything until the very end, when you just kind of see it, right? So knowing what your brush will do is 9/10 of the journey, which means a lot of playing, which shouldn't be a problem. It just means do art daily, and don't stress, because now you can make an art journal out of whatever you don't feel works. I have plenty of that. So I use the Planeta, or is that the brand? Hang on one second, I think I may just, nope, that's the color. Okay, so Planeta, Planet Glice, oh my goodness, Milky Way, Aurora, Australis, and Polar Lights are the colors in that. These ones are great, but they don't release. They're not like a watercolor based. They're more of a paint over pen, which is super awesome because they actually draw great on paper that's still drying from a watercolor wash or an ink wash from the pens. And draw right over it and it won't just disappear or rip the paper. You do have to be careful, so play first. But if you wanted to, okay, because we're playing and I don't have yellow in my mermaid markers yet. But you'll find that the line won't budge, which is fine. Oh, it's hard on the teeth though. Ooh. All right. So, what's nice about this technique is if you want to make an art journal like Jane does, which is awesome, with the pre-done background so that you can just kind of paint over top while you're traveling. In this way, this is just a lighter version, I guess. You could pre-draw whatever lines you wanted, and then when you're where you are, you could tape it down and have a watercolor without bringing all the watercolors with you. Okay, so it spreads really easily. That's why playing is so fun. See what I mean about how far the color goes? It stays really strong. So if you want more diluted tones, don't use this shade particularly on your page, but you could buy the lighter color versions I think that are out there. Or, as you'll see, look how blue that used to be clear. So that now is great as a wash, right? So if you really want it to be frugal, you could keep your washes, especially if you're using distilled water, which I'm not. I'm using tap water, so I'm not going to keep anything. But they would come in handy. So, and your color theory is pretty important. I like just using 3 tones of a shade family, red, blue, and yellow, because you'll end up with all the colors, but you have less potential for mud because I tend to overpaint. Less is more for me. But if you're not an overpainter, you could use more shades, and then when you release them in the water, just don't release them too close to each other. Yeah, so that's dry paper with the marker straight on and then adding water, and you can dribble it this way. All right. I'm just going to play with the paint a bit. See how we have those mountains without making mountains? That's the best part about abstract or this type of art. Let's see here. Yeah, you want to do a landscape, but it doesn't have to be the one in your head. You can see what landscape the paint and water and color make itself. Alright, so I'm going to use some green and we'll do some trees. This one is Aurora Australis, and the nice thing about the Mermaid pens, of course, is the glitter. Oh my god, when they dry, they're so pretty. You don't have to go over it with a light gold in fabric paint or something to get it. So I find the Mermaid markers are amazing on wet or dry. They spread more on the wet surface, obviously. So, see, whoop, bloop, but make it work, right? So I don't want to smoosh this brush like I might if I was doing this in acrylic, which I can't wait to get some of Jane's paint in acrylic as well. See how that works, because I love making my landscapes, so it'd be great to combine the stuff I already like doing with Jane's supplies, especially these pens. So it spreads really nice through wet and dry. And then you can go back in later with your water if you want to release some of the dry spots, if you feel that they just are too harsh, or that's what you want, type of thing. Once you start seeing what you see in the picture, and then has more of a, oh, that's what I'm making. The best thing about contemporary art, and thank you to our history of Impressionists and Fauves and people who didn't paint trees green. Oh, you can use whatever color you want. Oop. Yeah, great place to play with strokes and whatnot would be for backgrounds, right? So no pressure. If you like it, great. If you don't, add it to the art journal pile. I'm gonna do some Milky Way. Yeah, anyway, I hope that gives you some idea of what it can do in sort of a more live format. It was definitely fun getting these during Mermaid and being able to start with more of a watery base. Anyway, I'm gonna let that dry for now and play with it later maybe. You could go in with some salt, and Jane's product works amazing when you add the rock salt or salt to it. It makes that kind of speckled look. If you use salt, I definitely recommend blow drying it. It speeds up the absorption rate faster, and you get a bigger pattern than you would if you just let it dry on its own. Anyway, thanks again, Davin peeps. I love being in the group. You guys are amazing at everything you do and share, so thank you for sharing so generously. Have a good day.